Hi, everyone. I'm Rachel Beck, Vice President of Government Affairs at the Colorado Springs Chamber and EDC. We've just had another fascinating election with long-ranging implications, and we want to tell you what it means for the business community. So let's start with the issues. Colorado voters had a lot of decisions to make this year, with 11 initiatives to consider, and it looks like we were kind of two minds about the plethora of fiscal issues on our ballots. So we passed a reduction in income taxes and told state government they must ask voters' permission to increase fees. Growth in fees funding state government has been attributed by many as an attempt to get around the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights, which of course requires voter approval of new taxes. We also repealed the Gallagher Amendment, which will provide some much needed relief to businesses. Otherwise, they would have faced yet another property tax increase, making that 5 times more than residents. So a lot of tax relief measures that were passed. But on the other hand, voters also passed a massive new paid family and medical leave program that will be funded by a really considerable payroll tax. I'm not convinced, though, that voters truly understand the cost of that program. The Boulder Daily Camera had called this perhaps the most misleading, poorly written ballot measure ever. And if you just kind of read the language, it made it sound like we were approving workers taking time off for family and medical reasons, not creating a big new state government program that would be funded by a payroll tax. Premium was mentioned maybe halfway through the lengthy text, but that's really kind of a euphemism that many people may not understand means we're going to all be seeing a deduction in our paychecks, and businesses will also have to be paying for this new program on behalf of their employees. Voters also directed the state to reintroduce wolves in Colorado, and while you might not think of that as a fiscal measure, it does come with a price tag. And all of this comes at a time when the state budget will need to be cut by about $1.5 billion next year, thanks to the effects of a pandemic-induced recession. So what happens now? Each taxpayer will have roughly $40 more to spend, thanks to the income tax reduction. The legislature will have quite a few jobs to do, including creating legislation to implement that family and medical leave program. We at the Chamber and EDC will do our best to ensure that that legislation reflects business perspectives, and we're going to work hard to ensure that the program that we finally end up with will be something that's solvent and will work for Colorado. We're probably going to see a lot more measures in the future as well on our ballots now that we have to consider and approve new fees at the state level. In the governor's budget proposal, he's asked for $1.3 billion for a stimulus package that includes $200 million for roads, bridges, and main streets. And the main street work would be really focused on helping businesses, small businesses, to get through winter and pandemic restrictions as successfully as possible. He'll present all of this to the legislature's Joint Budget Committee next week, and we will keep a close eye on those state spending discussions. Now, turning to candidates, there weren't really any big surprises on election night. At the state level, Democrats retained their control that they've had for the last 2 years at the legislature, as well as the governor's office, of course. Incumbents in our region retained their seats. And we'll continue, as we always do, to work closely with them on issues like pandemic relief, labor and employment regulations, transportation funding, affordable housing, and those other issues that you've told us are critical to the success of your business. And we really do have a great delegation. We have very good relationships with them here at the Chamber and EDC, and they are always very accessible to us. So we look forward to continuing to work with them. We were also pleased to see a number of friends to the business community around the state win re-election, folks like Senator Bob Rankin and Representative Shannon Byrd and Rachel Zenzinger from the Denver area, both of whom are moderate Democrats who have really worked out some important compromises and amendments to some legislation last year that was really important to the business community. Southern Colorado will also be represented in House leadership by Representative Dene Escogar from Pueblo. And finally, we bid a farewell to Senator Cory Gardner and his staff, who have been tireless advocates for issues important to the Colorado economy and to Pikes Peak region businesses. We thank them sincerely for their service. much of which was on issues that never made the papers, but made a big difference to so many Colorado businesses, students, veterans, and others. And we're very grateful to Senator Gardner and wish him the best in his future endeavors. We will look forward to working with Senator-elect Hickenlooper, who won that race. He has always been accessible to the chamber during his time as governor. And in fact, members of his team have already reached out to ask what the federal government can better do for us. What we're hearing at the chamber and EDC is important in Southern Colorado and to our businesses. And in these last few days, we will continue to watch the counting of votes in other states in the presidential election, while smugly congratulating ourselves for the amazing election professionals that we're really lucky to have in Colorado, and our thanks to them too. A lot of hard work went into the election this year, and pandemic restrictions and safety measures were taken very seriously at the polls, and from what I hear in El Paso County, things went very smoothly. Please continue to keep in close touch with the Chamber and EDC team. We love hearing from you. We can't do our jobs without knowing what's on your minds. And my email address and phone number are on our website. Also keep an eye out for news on our next policy event, which is our annual legislative roundtable. That gives you a chance to have small group conversations with your legislators, and we always get great feedback on those conversations.